The Young Messiah is directed by Cyrus Nowrasteh. I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name. And it stars Sean Bean as a selling point for the movie. And then a bunch of unknowns that I've never heard of. And it's a story of young Jesus that they took from a tiny little passage in the New Testament. And they created a whole movie out of it. And it's a movie that, honestly, even though there's not much there to mine from, it's actually a pretty interesting concept that I think of, because this is a story that we've never really explored before, like the whole younger years of Jesus. And as you read the Bible, you could see like, oh, like I wonder what it was like when he was a kid. And so they decided to delve deep into it here and see really what it was like. And there's pros and cons of that, because the pros are, it's kind of cool to see like this young Jesus going around and like being young Jesus and being a kid and just seeing what he was like. But then the cons of that are, there's not much in the Bible there to like take from, and so you're really having to really drag this story out and stretch it into as many things as you can, because there's really not much there to tell you what happened in the younger years of Jesus. So you have to kind of make up the story and really pool and stretch things out. And that's the biggest problem with this movie, is that it's super stretched out and it's a pretty boring movie. And that's the biggest fault of the movie, because it's not exactly a bad movie. It's just that it's just so drawn out that there's not much of a story there. The performances I thought were all pretty solid. The young kid, the Jesus, he did a good job. I thought, for especially a kid performance, he did a really good job of like portraying emotion, and you could see his confusion, and he did a good job of portraying a young Jesus. And all the other actors I thought did a pretty solid job. There was not any bad acting in this thing. I was very thankful for that, because in a lot of these Christian movies, there is a lot of bad acting, but in this one, I was pleased to see that there was a lot of cool set design, a lot of cool like effects and everything going on. Some of the battle sequences, there was like one battle sequence in there that I was like, we can get past this, because there's no blood, there's nothing happening. It's just like you guys are just hitting swords and nothing's really happening. But that's besides the point. The movie looks good. It's directed fine. I thought that it had a pretty, not much of a style, but it felt like you were in that time, so that was a plus for me. The thing is with the movie, though, is that it takes things from like other movies that worked, like The Passion, and it just puts these directly in the movie. And in some ways that's cool, because it's like, oh, it's paying homage to that, like the whole devil thing from The Passion. It has that whole devil thing in this, and in some ways it feels cool, and it's like, oh, that's cool that they like did it exactly like that. But in some ways it feels just like a rip-off of that, and in a lot of ways it feels like a rip-off of The Passion. And even some of the sound cues and like musical, the score, it somewhat felt like it was just really copying that. But in the same way, it's like, well, it's trying to make it so that you could watch these things together, you know? And that was cool and distracting at the same time. I walked out of it not hating it, not loving it. I thought it was an okay movie. I just didn't have much feeling for it, and that's why it's really in the middle for me. It's more, a little bit more thumbs down than thumbs up, because it is just so drawn out and a little bit too much heavy-handedness, where it could have had a little bit more broad of an appeal, but it would only for the one demographic, and that's fine. It knows what it's going for, but as a movie, it doesn't really work as well than it does for, hey, this is just a Bible study lesson, you know? So overall, I'm going to have to go 2.5 out of 5 for this one. Not a bad movie in any sort of way. It's middle of the ground. If you're a Christian, you want to like talk about it with your class or whatever, I think you should check it out. I think you'll like it. It's a cool discussion piece. But if you're not anywhere near interested in this kind of stuff, stay far away, because you're not going to have any interest. You're going to hate it. So, yeah, it's middle of the ground for me. Then that's that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this and you want to see more reviews from a guy like me, you can subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one.